We're back in Almada, and if you saw my first video about Almada, you know how impressed I was with it and how much I really enjoyed our time there, even though I hadn't been there very often before. We went to the Cristo de Rey, which is, you know, the most popular attraction in Almada, the one that everyone goes to, and checked out a few places to eat and some other cool things to do there. But I thought, man, Almada's a nice town. I was really kind of blown away by it, so I thought we'd come back and visit again to some other places. And so our first stop here is a place called Pasteleria Repuxo. And I think today we're going to try, we'll see if we're successful or not, but we're going to try to visit some places that are maybe a little more local oriented. And this place is more in the center of town, and even though the guy behind the counter spoke English, this is really a locals place. I don't see a lot of tourists from the Cristo de Rey coming down here. I picked this place to start because it's pretty famous and it's a Fabrico Proprio, which when you come to Portugal, this is what you want to look for in your bakery, because that means everything is made in-house. Like when I was standing in line waiting for my pastry, the baker came out and he had this giant tray filled with bread, and he tossed it in. It was all nice and warm. Tossed it into the area where you can buy it. So they're making the stuff right here. If it doesn't say Fabrico Proprio, it means they're probably buying it in from someplace else. Doesn't mean it's going to be bad, but I like to look for the Fabrico Proprio because you get a nice, you know, homemade type environment. So, what did I get? This caught my eye, and it's because it looks so similar to a torta agitao. So you've got the cake wrapped around what I assume is the egg cream. I've never tried this particular one before, but we'll give it a try. That kid behind me wants a piece of chocolate cake, I think. This is really good. Oh my goodness. It's got some sugar on the top, give it a nice little sugary crunch, and then delicious chocolate cake filled with egg cream. Man, this is tasty. I wonder why no one else has made this in agitao, like made a chocolate agitao tart. I guess it's not traditional. But I really like it. And then, of course, they got the machine on the inside that has all the oranges in it, and you can get fresh squeezed orange juice to order. So like he just presses the button, it squeezes the oranges right on the spot, and then out comes our fresh squeezed orange juice. Nothing beats fresh squeezed orange juice. Man, citrus in Portugal is so good. All right, well, that's our first stop, and I gotta say, we're off to a really solid start here in Almada. It smells wonderful.
It does. Thank you so much. I hope it tastes wonderful.
I'm sure it will. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Our next stop is Domishko, a Syrian cafe here in Almada. And we just came in here for a little snack, and as soon as she set the food down, I was just like, oh man, it just smells absolutely divine. So I'm not gonna wait. I'm gonna just dive right in here. And oh, we got our coffee too. Beautiful. Oh man, what a great presentation this is. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
So First thing I got was the stuffed grape leaves, and what I really appreciate about these guys is that all the stuff is labeled whether it's vegetarian or not, and I would say at least a third, maybe even a half of the menu is vegetarian. All right, so on the inside we're stuffed with, I don't know, couscous maybe, bulgur wheat, some peppers. Oh man, those spices. It's like a tomato sauce, but with Arabic spices, maybe some za'atar in there. Man, that is absolutely delicious. Fantastic. I love stuffed grape leaves. Sometimes they can be, I don't know, just a little bit bland. This is the opposite of that. Man, fantastic. So nice. And then it comes with a little pita. I'll give this a try. This is the red pepper paste. Red pepper, I don't know, like a hummus. This really looks good. There's some oil in there, maybe some walnuts. Let's take a look what that is. Yeah, I think maybe that's a walnut. Give this a try. Equally as flavorful. Man. I am so impressed with these folks. So good. Makes me kind of wish that we got a full meal here instead of just a little snack. All right. We got the Arabic coffee, which I don't know, I thought maybe it's similar to Turkish coffee. Comes in this gorgeous container. And look at these little cups. So that's like spicy. That's not Turkish coffee. That is spicy. That has maybe some cinnamon in it. I'm not sure. But I like the coffee and I love the presentation. Really, really nice job. Boy, I'll tell you, here on the Iberian Peninsula, you don't hear much about ethnic food coming from the Middle East. Like you'll hear Brazilian food, you'll hear South American food, Indian food, extremely popular. But you don't hear a lot in foodie circles, people talking about Middle Eastern food. But I got to say, when we've come here and got Middle Eastern food, it has been outstanding. And I'm not talking about going to a doner kebab stand. I'm talking about, you know, nice, sit down, fine dining. This place is not expensive by any stretch, but the food quality, outstanding. I'm really, really impressed with this place. So there you go, another great stop here in Almada. This is Quinta do Almaraz, and as you can see from behind me, this is a really great lookout spot over the water here in Almada. This place was used by the Phoenicians. Now, I'm sure you've heard of the Romans being on the Iberian Peninsula, being in this all around this area. There's tons and tons of Roman ruins around here. What you may not know is that 800 years before the Romans were here, the Phoenicians were here, and they established this as a trading post and also did a lot of fishing here, processed fish, salted fish, kept fish. It's such a great spot because, as you can see, there's tons of water back here, and the sea was extremely bountiful for catching fish. But this site sat pretty much unknown and undisturbed for several centuries until it was discovered in the 1980s, and it's been an archaeological site ever since then. We can't go in here today, unfortunately. You have to make an appointment in order to visit this site, but I think we'll wind up doing that someday, you know, coming back here. But even if you don't make an appointment, just for the views, it's an amazing spot to come to. And the other reason why you want to come here is up on this side, there is a medieval castle. And this was first built by the Moors over 1,000 years ago. Later, the Christian Reconquistas came in and they expanded upon it and used as a fortification for several centuries. And finally, it was decommissioned back in the 1800s, used during the pandemic of 1918 as a hospital, and then during World War II, it was reused by the military as a garrison. Today, though, it's used by the National Guard, and unfortunately, because of that, you don't have access to it, which is a real shame, because from the outside, it really looks pretty cool, although it looks like there's probably some modern buildings in there as well. What are you going to do? But it would be really nice if they could let people in, even if it was just once a month or even once a year for tours. But no, the National Guard uses that for offices and maybe for training in there as well. Who knows what they do in there. So we can't get access to that either, but it's definitely worth it to come up, if only for the views. We're at the Amara Otejo, and this is a fine dining restaurant that overlooks the river with a view of Lisbon. And I went to this place in our last video about Almada, but it's really one of my favorite spots in all of the Lisbon area. The food inside is really good too. We're not going to have lunch today. We already had a little snack. But I wanted to come up here because I just wanted to show you what a spectacular view it is. I mean, Almada is full of great views. Last video we went up to the Cristo de Rei, and some people say that's the best view in all of Portugal. I love this because you can see right over into the center of Lisbon. You've got the April the 25th bridge here, and this little walkway is just so incredibly charming. It's really, really gorgeous. And if you're hungry, you can get some food. They also have a little outside window if you just want a glass of wine or something. You can get that as well. And then there's these perfect little spots to sit. We're here on a weekend, and I can't believe that we're pretty much the only folks here. I don't know why, because last time we were here, it was pretty busy and pretty crowded. It was also on a weekend. But anyway, not going to complain for having this gorgeous view to ourselves. It is spectacular, and you can just sit back and enjoy it for as long as you like. This is Taberna o Antonio, and if you're looking for traditional Portuguese cuisine, this is the place to come. We got daily specials on the chalkboard. That's always good. And we got our little glass of wine. They poured it out of a box. So this is probably a good time to point out that boxed wine in Portugal does not necessarily mean bad wine. In fact, there's some really good boxed wine in Portugal. One of our favorite wineries near our house, they sell boxed wine, and we get it, and we get a box, and we keep it in our apartment, and it lasts for a couple of weeks, longer even. It's equivalent to like 5 or 6 bottles of wine, and the last one we had, I think it lasted us like 2 months, and we'd occasionally just pour a glass and enjoy it. So if you're thinking about boxed wine when you come to Portugal, don't let it scare you off. This isn't your aunt's boxed wine that you might be thinking of. Didn't get a meal here because we've been eating quite a bit, but I saw some desserts in the counter, so I thought we'd try this. They had the traditional rice pudding in there, dolce arroz, and but we got this chocolate mousse. Okay. Get underneath. Wow, you go down deep and it's really, really creamy and really chocolatey. That's nice. See if I can do this without spilling it on me. All right, not a tourist in sight at O Antonio. Good place to come for an authentic experience here in Almada. This is Pasteleria Golfano, which is the Dolphin Cafe, and it's a very traditional Portuguese cafe. You know, they call it a pasteleria, which means bakery, but really it's more of a cafe. This is a place where you get light dishes and maybe a glass of wine and stuff like that. They also had pastries in there, and I was tempted to get a pastry, but then I saw in the display case they had hard-boiled eggs, and for some reason that struck me as something that I really wanted to get, so I got a hard-boiled egg. Now, I was hoping it was going to come out, they were just going to put an egg on a plate, and I was going to crack the shell and peel it and do all that. They did it, and they sliced it up for me, which is nice, a nice presentation, but I was kind of hoping that I was going to get a hard-boiled egg and I was just going to eat it for you. That didn't happen. I also got an abatanado, and if you've seen any of my coffee videos here in Portugal, you know that an abatanado is a Portuguese version of what we call an Americano. And as I've explained in my other videos, if you ask for an Americano in Portugal, you may get something like this, which is espresso with just more water added to it. Or in some cases, you may get like a Nescafe with hot water added. So that's why you don't want to ask for an Americano when you come to Portugal. You want to ask for a abatanado. My pronunciation now is pretty good after a year and a half in Portugal. But at first, when I asked for a abatanado, my friend Zay at Alegre Me in Setúbal used to make fun of me, which is fine. I get made fun of for my Portuguese all the time, as I should, because my Portuguese is terrible. But abatanado, that's coffee that I often get when I don't want something so concentrated and bitter in Portugal. Get an abatanado, it's kind of refreshing. All right, so we got a hard-boiled egg. I don't know why this struck me as funny, but it did, that I could just order a hard-boiled egg by itself in this cafe. And it's nice. After all the sweets that we've had so far today, and this is a kind of a nice change of pace to get a little protein in. And eggs and coffee. What could make breakfast more than that? Of course, it's the middle of the afternoon here in Portugal, but what are you going to do? Our last stop for today is going to be Pasteleria Pascoa. These guys have been doing it since 1956, so you know they're doing something right. It's a real traditional pasteleria here in Almada, and it's big inside, and they even took over the area next door, so been a successful pasteleria for quite a while. First time we came here, we got this, except in the mini version, the mini donut. I also got a mini bow tie and a little coconut cookie dipped in chocolate. It was really good. So we came back today, and this time what I decided to do was get a larger version of this. And basically, this is a donut, a glazed donut. The Portuguese version of Krispy Kreme. Tasty but messy. Need more caffeine, so another abatinado. And the pyramid. It's a little windy out here today, so. Now, normally I would bite the top off of this thing, but Karen's filming this today and she likes that top, so I'm gonna save that for her. Pyramid is a cake covered in chocolate. What makes it unique is what they do is they take the cake scraps. So when they're making other cakes and cutting off pieces of it and cutting off sides to make shapes and whatnot, you have all these scraps left over. And rather than wasting it, throwing it away, you make it into these pyramids covered in chocolate, put a cherry on top, and you have this delicious little cake. So, really nice. And how can you beat it when you got a coffee going with it? And it's right on the tram line. Yeah, I don't know if you saw the tram going by, but Almada's done a really good job of getting connectivity between this and some of the other nearby towns via this tram system. They've also got a nice bus system, and of course, if you're coming from Lisbon, you're going to take the ferry across. So good job on the connectivity, Almada. We've been taking this tram several times, and super efficient, super quick. It runs on its own tracks. It's not like in Lisbon where it shares the street with cars, so it doesn't get like stuck behind cars and stuff like that, which makes it run all that much more smoothly. So that's it for our little pastry and savory crawl in Almada. And I gotta say, when we first moved here, Almada kind of has this old reputation as not being really the nicest place in Portugal. I think that comes from years ago. They've really worked hard to improve it, and it's a really nice area. You get away from the tourist areas and you find these traditional spots. It makes it a really nice place to come and visit. Great pastelerias, really good. Nice places, traditional tavernas, and of course you've got the viewpoints along the waterfront. So how can you go wrong here? I really liked Almada. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like. If you enjoy traveling and food, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you down the road.